I never thought I'd be the guy telling a story like this, but here I am. I married Jessica about 6 months ago. We'd been together for 3 years and everything seemed perfect, or at least that's what I convinced myself. Jessica always had that fiery attitude, had a sharp tongue, and she wasn't afraid to tell you exactly what she thought. She could be bitchy, sure, but I liked that about her. She was confident, outspoken, and I thought that made her strong. From the start, I noticed little things that didn't sit right. She started acting distant a couple of months before the wedding. She'd cancel plans last minute, had that nervous energy when I'd ask her about her whereabouts, and sometimes she'd get defensive, snapping at me with that bitchy tone. I brushed it off at first. I figured she was just stressed, wedding planning, work, the usual. But then I caught her lying about something small. She told me she was out with her best friend, Lauren, on a business trip for work. She even showed me fake hotel receipts, made up calls, and insisted it was just a quick trip. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. Jessica always loved to spin stories and manipulate her way out of anything uncomfortable. But I was blinded by the wedding countdown and the idea that she loved me. So I let it go. I trusted her. Still, deep down, I had this nagging feeling that something was off. I kept noticing her phone buzzing at odd hours or her deleting texts when she thought I wasn't looking. Nothing concrete, just gut feelings, but they grew stronger with each passing day. Then came the summer. Jessica started working late more often. I'd come home from work and she'd be out with her friends, but the stories she told about her business trips never quite added up. She'd come home late, smelling different, and her excuses got more elaborate. One night I found her phone unlocked. I saw a message from someone named Mike, saying he missed her and wanted to see her again. My stomach dropped. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I knew. That's when I decided to dig a little. I installed a tracking app on her phone, something I never thought I'd do, but I felt I had to. I wasn't trying to spy, not really, just a way to get the truth. It didn't take long before I saw her meet up with this guy Mike, her neighbor actually. Their meetups were frequent, always in secret locations, always late at night. I started connecting the dots. Turns out Jessica wasn't just lying about her business trips. She was seeing Mike, her neighbor, her best friend's brother, and she'd been doing it for months. The worst part. She convinced me she was innocent, that it was all just a lie some girl at work made up, that she wasn't involved with anyone. She yelled at me, called me paranoid, told me I was overthinking things and that I should trust her, that she loved me, that it was just a fling, nothing serious. She even said I was being jealous and unreasonable, but I knew better. I had the messages, the evidence. It was a punch to the gut. I remember the night I found out everything crystal clear. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her messages, when I saw a picture of her and Mike taken at the local park. The caption read, "Can't wait to see you tonight," and it was. From 2 nights ago, that was the moment I realized she'd been lying to my face for months. All those stories about business trips, all the times she said she was busy with work, she was actually with him. And the worst part, she knew I was suspicious, but she kept lying, kept pretending everything was fine. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My heart was pounding, my hands numb. I confronted her that very night. I told her I knew everything, about her meetings with Mike, the lies, the secret trips, her reaction. She just scoffed and rolled her eyes, said I was being crazy and possessive, that I didn't trust her because I was insecure. She told me I was imagining things, that she loved me and would never do something like that. But her voice was cold and her eyes told a different story. That moment changed everything. My stomach turned and I felt like I'd been betrayed, not just by her, but by every belief I had about our relationship. I was angry, hurt, and confused. How could she do this? How could she lie for so long? And why the hell did I trust her so blindly? I tried to hold back tears, but they came anyway, because deep inside I knew this was just the beginning of a new, painful chapter. After that night, everything spiraled. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying her lies, her sneering reaction, how she thought she could get away with it. I felt numb, like I was outside myself, watching from the sidelines. I kept asking myself, how could I have been so blind? How did I miss all the signs? And most of all, how could she betray me like that right before our wedding? I decided I needed to confront her again, face to face. I couldn't just let this slide, not after the evidence I had. The next morning, I told her I wanted to talk. She was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, acting like she had no idea what I was about to say. I looked her straight in the eyes and told her I knew everything about her meeting Mike, the lies, everything. Her face changed, suddenly defensive, like I just insulted her entire world. "Are you serious?" She snapped. "That's bullshit. You're just paranoid. You're projecting your insecurities again." She brushed it off, trying to laugh it away, but I wasn't falling for her act anymore. I pressed her, asking why she lied, why she kept sneaking around when she knew how much I trusted her. Her reply: "It's none of your damn business. I don't owe you explanations. You're just jealous, always accusing me of stuff I didn't do." Her tone was venomous now, her words sharp like knives. I felt a surge of anger. I told her she was full of shit, that she'd been cheating on me with her neighbor, her best friend's brother, all this time. I laid out the evidence, the messages, the photos. Her eyes fluttered for a second, then she scoffed again like I was some fool. "You don't know what you're talking about," she spat. "You're just a jealous, insecure loser who can't handle a little fun. Maybe if you weren't so uptight, we wouldn't be in this mess." That's when I snapped. I told her she was a selfish bitch, how she'd played me for months, lying and pretending to be innocent while she was out screwing around. I told her I wasn't going to be a fool anymore. I was done. I wanted her out of my place. She just smirked and said I was overreacting, that she'd never cheat on me, that I was crazy for even thinking it. Then she turned on her heel and stormed out of the house, leaving me standing there furious and broken. That day was rough. I felt like I'd been punched repeatedly. I couldn't eat, couldn't focus. All I wanted was to make sense of how I'd missed all the signs, how she'd lied so easily. The betrayal cut deep, but what hurt even more was the realization that the woman I thought I knew so well had been hiding this secret. It made me question everything: my judgment, her sincerity, even my own worth. I kept asking myself over and over, how did I not see it coming? How could I have been so stupid? In the days that followed, I started to get angry, not just at her, but at myself for not seeing it sooner. I began to think about what I wanted to do next, whether to fight for the relationship, try to forgive her, or just cut ties completely. But honestly, as much as I wanted to believe in redemption, I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. That trust was shattered beyond repair. The thought of her with Mike, her neighbor, her best friend's brother, it made me feel sick. So I began planning my next move. I knew I needed space, time to think. I packed a bag and stayed at a friend's place for a few days. I couldn't look at her without feeling rage boiling inside me, but I also felt crushing sadness. I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Now I wasn't so sure. I felt like I'd been played, used, and discarded like a piece of trash. The worst part, the realization that she didn't even seem sorry. She lied straight to my face, called me insecure, and then acted like I was crazy for suspecting anything. How do you rebuild something when the foundation been so badly damaged? Honestly, I don't know. All I know is that I can't stay in a relationship built on lies, not anymore. I've never felt so betrayed, like I was a fool for trusting someone who only saw me as a fool to be played. That's where I am now, trying to figure out if I can move past this or if I should just walk away and start over. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Every time I tried to sleep, her face would flash in my mind, that sneer she gave when she was lying, her voice insisting I was crazy. I kept replaying everything she'd told me about those business trips, how she swore she was innocent, how she insisted I was just jealous or insecure. But I knew better now. That business trip was her sneaking off to meet Mike, her neighbor, her best friend's brother. That's what really happened. I started to realize just how deeply I'd been manipulated. Jessica always had that bitchy smirk, that sharp tongue that cut you down without thinking. She'd lie about the smallest things, then lie about the big ones too. The lies piled up and I was too blind to see them. I honestly thought I was marrying a woman I could trust. Turns out, she'd been lying from the beginning. She convinced me that her business trips were innocent. Even when I saw her sneaking out late at night, her phone glued to her hand, her messages full of flirtation. I should have seen it before, but I didn't want to believe it. One thing I kept asking myself was, Why? Why did she do it? Was it just the thrill? Did she think she could get away with it forever? Or was she just a selfish bitch who didn't care about how much she'd hurt me? I still remember the look in her eyes when I confronted her, defiant, angry, like she was above any consequences. That pissed me off even more. How dare she act like she was the victim? I started digging deeper, trying to piece together everything. I found out she'd been meeting Mike for months, probably from the day we announced the wedding. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how much she'd lied. She told me she was working late, going out with Lauren, or even visiting her parents. But behind those backstories was her sneaking off to see him, probably in secret, probably in her car or some cheap motel. And she was convincing everyone, including her best friend Lauren, that she was innocent. That's what makes it worse. She lied to her closest friend, lied to me, and probably lied to herself. I remember the moment I decided I needed to see her one last time. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know the truth. I called her up, told her I wanted to meet, and she agreed, probably thinking I was going to beg her to stay or forgive her. When she walked into my apartment, I could see it in her eyes. She knew she was caught. I didn't bother with pleasantries. I just laid it all out. Told her I knew about Mike, about her lies, about everything. Her reaction. She rolled her eyes again, scoffing like I was some desperate fool. "Stop with your crazy accusation," she snapped. "You're just jealous because I don't want to be married to a guy who's insecure and paranoid. I've been honest with you, but you just refuse to listen. Maybe you're the one who's got the problem, not me." Her words were venomous, her tone dripping with disdain. I couldn't believe how she could act like this. After all she'd done, she still had the nerve to call me insecure. But I also saw the cracks in her armor. Her eyes flickered with guilt, and her voice wavered when she realized I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. I told her she was a lying, selfish bitch, that I never wanted to see her face again. I told her she was a cheating whore and I was done with the lies. That moment I finally felt a tiny flicker of relief, as if I'd taken back some control. But the pain was still there, deep, gnawing, and raw. I wanted to scream, to break things, to make her feel what I felt. But instead I just walked out, leaving her standing there, speechless. That confrontation changed everything. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut every single day since. The trust we had was shattered beyond repair, and I knew that I couldn't keep pretending it was all just a misunderstanding. I had tangible proof: her lies, her secret meetings, her betrayal. I wondered how I could ever look at her the same way again. Every time I saw her, I felt distaste, like she'd become someone I used to love but could no longer recognize. That night I slept with my phone on loud, just in case she called or messaged. I kept thinking about what I'd do next. Part of me wanted to confront her again, demand answers, demand she tell me everything. But another part just wanted to forget her, erase her from my life. I knew I had to make a decision soon. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, stuck between anger, sadness, and betrayal. I wondered how much more I could take before I broke completely. The next couple of days were a blur. I couldn't concentrate on anything: work, my hobbies. Even basic chores felt like a chore I didn't want to do. I kept replaying everything in my mind. Her sneering face when I confronted her, her angry denials, her smugness when she called me insecure. It's like my brain was trying to process a bad dream that just wouldn't end. I also spent a lot of time thinking about her, Jessica, the woman I loved, or thought I loved, who had lied so effortlessly for months. It's a strange thing, realizing you'd been played for a fool, and that everything you believed about your relationship was built on a foundation of lies. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit around and stew in my anger and heartbreak. I decided to get some space, so I stayed at a friend's place for a while. I needed to detach myself from her, from the betrayal, and figure out what I really wanted. It was hard. Every time I heard her name or saw her face, I felt this rush of rage mixed with sadness. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it coming, how I could have missed it all. I had trusted her so much, and she'd just thrown it all away with her lies and her affair. One thing I realized for sure was that I wasn't going to forgive her. Not now, not ever. She'd betrayed me so profoundly that I couldn't see a way back. Even if I tried, I'd always remember her sneering, her lies, her sneaking around with Mike. I kept thinking about the future, and I couldn't imagine living with her after all this. Honestly, I started to feel a deep sense of disgust, not just for her but for myself for trusting her so blindly. How do you rebuild something that's been so thoroughly broken? In the quiet moments, I also started to feel a strange sense of clarity. I'd been fooling myself into thinking marriage was forever, that love could conquer all. But this betrayal showed me that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes people are just greedy, selfish, and willing to destroy everything for their own pleasure. Jessica's actions proved that. She was willing to throw away everything we had, our future, my trust, my respect, for some secret affair with her neighbor, her best friend's brother. It's honestly hard to even put into words how much I felt lied to and used. I reached a point where I had to decide whether to fight for some kind of reconciliation or to just cut my losses. I knew I couldn't stay in that apartment anymore. The place reminded me of every lie, every deceit. I started looking into places to move, thinking maybe a fresh start was the best option. I also began to reach out to a few close friends, people I could trust to give me honest advice. I told them everything, and surprisingly, they were furious on my behalf. They called her a bitch, a selfish slut, and told me I deserved better. That helped strengthen my resolve. But beneath all the anger was this deep sadness. I loved Jessica, at least I thought I did. That love was now tainted with disgust and betrayal. I kept asking myself if I could ever forgive her, if I could ever trust her again. The answer kept coming back. No, trust is like a glass. Once shattered, it never looks the same. I knew I needed to let go, to accept that what we had was over, and that I had to focus on healing myself. Looking back, I realize how much I learned from this experience. I learned that trust is fragile, and that sometimes people will lie and cheat without a second thought. I learned that love can blind you, and that you have to see the truth early on, no matter how painful it might be. And most of all, I learned I'm stronger than I thought. I can survive betrayal, heartbreak, and the feeling of having my world turned upside down. So here I am, still hurt but moving forward. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I won't let her poison my life anymore. I've started focusing on myself, my happiness, my recovery. And honestly, that's the only thing that matters now. If you're reading this and going through something similar, my advice is get out if you have to. Trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs. And never let anyone make you feel like you're crazy for suspecting the truth. Because the truth, no matter how painful, is better than living in a lie. After I made the decision to leave, I started taking real steps to move on. It wasn't just about physically leaving her apartment. It was about cutting out the emotional ties I'd been holding onto. I started packing up my things slowly, methodically, so I wouldn't get overwhelmed. Every item I packed brought back memories. Good ones, bad ones, and ones I didn't want to face. But I knew I had to do it. I couldn't stay in that environment anymore, not with all the lies and betrayal hanging over me like a dark cloud. I also reached out to a lawyer. I knew I needed to get my head clear about the legal side of things, particularly dividing assets and figuring out if I wanted to pursue anything further. Honestly, the thought of fighting for a divorce felt like the only way to finally sever the ties with her. I wanted her out of my life completely. I didn't want her to have any access to my money, my future, or my peace of mind. I was already feeling lighter just by taking those steps. Meanwhile, I kept thinking about Jessica. Her attitude, her words, her smugness. How she'd lied so effortlessly and tried to make me feel crazy. I remembered her bitchy tone, how she'd sneer at my concerns, call me insecure or paranoid. Honestly, I started to realize that her confidence was just a mask, a facade hiding her own guilt and shame. I wondered how she could look herself in the mirror every morning knowing she'd betrayed me so badly. It made me sick to think about it. One night, I finally decided to confront her again. I wanted closure, even if I knew I'd never get it from her. I called her up, told her I was moving out and that I wanted to talk face to face. When she arrived, she looked different, less confident, more defensive, like she knew her game was up. I laid everything out, how I found out, how I'd been hurt, how I was done. Her reaction. She rolled her eyes and started with her usual bullshit. "You're overreacting," she said, crossing her arms. "This is all your insecurity talking. I never cheated on you. You're just crazy and jealous like always." Her tone was dismissive, like she didn't care that I knew the truth. I told her she was a liar, a manipulator, and that I didn't want anything to do with her anymore. I told her I was taking my life back. She just scoffed, called me pathetic, and walked out the door like she didn't care. That was the last time I saw her face. After she left, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. Relief because I finally took control of the situation, and emptiness because I'd lost the person I thought I'd spend my life with. For days, I wandered through my apartment trying to process what had happened. I kept asking myself, how did I let it get this far? How did I not see her true colors sooner? But I also realized I was better off without her lies. The trust was gone, and I couldn't rebuild what was broken. I turned my focus to healing. I started exercising more, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, and even talking to a therapist. Surprisingly, talking about it helped a lot. I needed to vent, to let it all out, to understand that I wasn't alone. The more I talked, the more I realized how many people had been betrayed in similar ways and came out stronger on the other side. That gave me some hope. I wasn't going to be stuck in this pain forever. What I've learned from all this is that betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you who you really are. I learned I'm resilient, stronger than I thought, and capable of surviving the worst. I learned that trusting someone blindly can be a mistake, but that trusting yourself and listening to your instincts is everything. I've also come to understand that love isn't enough when someone is fundamentally dishonest and selfish. Sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. Right now, I'm still healing. I have good days and bad days. Some moments I feel hope, others I feel empty. But I know I'm moving forward. I've started building a new life, one where I focus on myself, my happiness, my boundaries, my self-respect. And honestly, that feels like a victory in itself. If you're out there feeling lost, just remember, you're not alone. Trust your gut, hold your head high, and don't be afraid to walk away from what no longer serves you. The pain will fade, and one day, you'll look back and realize you're stronger than any betrayal. It's been a few months now since I finally cut ties with Jessica, and honestly, I feel like I'm starting to breathe again. The pain still lingers, of course, but it's no longer the overwhelming, suffocating weight it once was. I've learned a lot through this nightmare, mostly about myself, about trust, and about what it really means to be loved. I used to believe that love could conquer everything, that if you found the right person, the rest would fall into place. But now I see that love isn't enough when honesty and respect are missing. Looking back, I wish I'd paid more attention to the warning signs. I wish I hadn't ignored that gut feeling, that little voice that kept telling me something was off. But I also realize that I can't change the past. I can only take what I've learned and use it to build something better for myself. I've started going out more, reconnecting with friends, and even exploring new hobbies. I want to focus on my happiness, not on someone who only brought me pain. One thing I've come to understand is that betrayal shatters your trust in people, but it doesn't have to break your spirit. I've discovered that I'm stronger than I ever thought I was. I've faced the worst, and somehow, I'm still standing. It's become clear to me that the most important thing is to love yourself first. Trust yourself enough to walk away from toxic relationships and never settle for anything less than honesty and loyalty. I've also realized that sometimes the people closest to us can hurt us the most. Jessica was supposed to be my partner, my future, my everything. Instead, she turned out to be the biggest betrayal of my life. But I refused to let her define me. I refuse to let her betrayal turn me into someone bitter or vengeful. Instead, I choose to see it as a lesson, one that's made me more cautious, more aware, and more determined to find genuine happiness. To others who might be going through something similar, my advice is simple: trust your instincts. Don't ignore the little red flags. Do. Let anyone make you feel crazy for suspecting the truth. And if you find yourself betrayed, walk away. It's painful, but it's also freeing. You deserve someone who loves you honestly, who respects you, and who values the trust you give them. Don't settle for less. And finally, I want to say that life does go on. No matter how dark things seem, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You will heal and you will find happiness again. It might take time, but it's worth it. I've learned that pain can teach us resilience and heartbreak can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves. I'm not perfect and I'm still healing, but I'm moving forward one step at a time. Jessica's betrayal was a brutal lesson, but it's also a wake-up call. It's made me realize what I want and what I don't. No more lies, no more betrayal. Only honesty, respect, and love that's real. That's what I'll be looking for from now on. And maybe, just maybe, I'll find it someday. For now, I'm just thankful to be free from the lies, the deceit, and her bitchy, manipulative ways. I'm finally reclaiming my life.